Hello, all the viewers and learners of NIUS. Learners, you know accountancy is one of the major subjects when you are going to go for a commerce stream. This accountancy is going to have 3 different books having the 6 various modules. The 6th module is going to be an optional module in which there are 2 choices before you. Either you go for the analysis of financial statement or cost accounting. If you choose a cost accounting, there are 4 chapters in this. In our earlier programs, we have already discussed with you what is exactly the cost accounting and what are the basic components of cost. Now, today we are going to discuss on the topic cost sheet. Learners, after passing out class 12th or even on a today's date, if you are doing some business and basically a manufacturing business, do you know what are the different type of cost you are going to incur? There are certain costs which can be directly attributed towards the cost of production, where you can analyze them. Yes, exactly this is the cost we have incurred. While there may be certain other cost which you won't be able to attribute, where you won't be able to adjust or identify कि it is directly involved in the cost of production or not. Where it means it is very difficult to know the exact amount spent on a particular product. So now there is a need for it that if we have to analyze it, we have to prepare a cost sheet. So cost sheet is one of the statement where all the components of the cost are going to be incurred, are going to be inculcated, and we can know that what is the exact cost of the product at different stages. This will help you in minimizing the wastages, in reducing the cost, and ultimately help you in increasing your profits. I, Dr. Piyush Prasad, Academic Officer in Accountancy, is going to discuss on that topic together with Dr. Anand Sharma, who is the Associate Professor in Central University, Haryana. Sir, we welcome you in our studio.
Thank you.
Learners, in our today's discussion, as I have already told you, the topic is cost sheet. It is a very detailed and wider topic which covers the various aspects of cost. What are the various components of the cost? How the cost is going to be taken from the raw material to the ultimate sales of the product. Each and everything will be discussed, and I hope all these things and our discussion would help you in understanding the topic of cost sheet as per your self-learning material. Sir, our learners know that they are going to spend a lot at the time when the goods are going to be produced. They spend the money on the raw material, on the labor, and various other kinds of expenses are going to be made. The question arises that how these expenses and the labor cost and the cost of raw material are going to be placed at one place so that they can come to know the final result. So what exactly do we mean by the term cost sheet?
Cost sheet is very important document, as profit and loss account and balance sheet are very important document in financial accounting. In the same way, in costing, cost sheet is a very important document. Cost sheet is a document, is a statement which shows cost of a product at different levels. Cost of a product which includes the prime cost, the main cost, the direct cost of the product. Then the product, when it passes from factory, we call it as a factory cost. When it reaches to the hands of customer, we call it as the cost of sales. So cost sheet is a document which shows cost at different levels.
As we have said, this is one of the statement which is going to show the cost at different levels. Maybe at the factory is going to be included, some various overheads are going to be included.
Yeah.
So do we include all selling and other expenses and then we call it as a cost sheet?
Yeah.
Okay. So all the expenses that are going to be incurred by the businessman either directly or indirectly but are taken into consideration at the time of producing the goods are included in a statement, and that statement is known as to be the cost sheet. Now once the definition and the meaning of the cost sheet is known, exactly what is the importance of cost sheet in cost accounting? Cost accounting is a very wider term, as we have discussed earlier also. This is only one of the statement. Why do we consider it so important? Why are we going to take each and everything in it? Don't we have any other method or a means by which we can calculate our cost?
Cost sheet is a document which shows the various components of cost in a very meticulous manner. by having a one glance of the cost sheet, a manager can draw lot of inferences, lot of useful information out of that. So, you can say the cost sheet is the crux of the whole costing. As far as costing is concerned, importance is concerned, it clearly depicts the cost at different levels. It helps in ascertaining the total cost of a product. It helps in calculating the selling price of a product. It helps in determining that how to control cost, at what part we can control. So, these are the importance of costing.
Once the importance of the costing is known, as we have said, ki it helps us in calculating the cost at various stages. And finally, the main which you have told is it helps in controlling the cost. Side by side, it is going to help the managers in taking many decisions related to the business. Now, the question arises that what are the different components when we are going to prepare this cost sheet?
The total cost of a product, the cost which we calculate, the cost when it reaches to the hands of the customer, we call it as the total cost or cost of sales. Cost of sales, the total cost is divided at different levels. The direct cost, we call it as prime cost, it is the first component. It consists of material cost, labor cost and expenses, which are directly and easily allocated to a particular product. That particular cost is very important, and that is known as prime cost. When prime cost is known, we add overheads, but we add overheads at different levels. First, we add production overheads, overheads which occur in factory premises. For example, if you prepare a cup of tea or you prepare a pizza, you can see there are some ingredients, basic ingredients which you can see, which you can touch, which you can feel, which become part of finished product, that is known as direct material. But while producing that particular product in factory premises, you have to incur some expenses, you have to use some material which does not become part of finished product. So, that is indirect material that happens in factory premises. Then we calculate labor, direct labor who are involved in production process, we take as direct labor. But there are some people in the production department who indirectly support. So, that is indirect labor. So, this way indirect material, indirect labor and indirect expenses, all these expenses are clubbed together in factory premises, we call them as factory overheads. In a similar way, there are some expenses, overheads which occurs in office and administrative block. So, we call them office and administrative overheads. That is the second component of overheads that we add to cost, factory cost. Then comes selling and distribution overheads. These are the overheads which occurs at the last stage, when we supply the goods, when we deliver the goods to the customer at the last end. So, these expenses occurs.
So, you mean to say that overall this thing can be divided into 4 broad categories at the time of calculating the cost sheet. Once you say that is a prime cost, which is taken by taking all the direct material, direct expenses, direct labor. If once the prime cost is known, if we add all indirect expenses, indirect labor, indirect material
at factory premises,
at factory level, then it becomes a factory cost. And if all indirect expenses related to the office are going to be added to this factory cost, it becomes the total cost of production. And then the cost of sales. Basically, once we add the selling and distribution expenses to it, it becomes the cost of sales. When you are going to prepare your cost sheet, there are 4 basic components, as the sir has told you right now. First of all is the prime cost, which you are going to get by adding all the direct expenses. Once the prime cost is known, you have to add all indirect expenses at the factory level, and it becomes a factory cost. If all the expenses at the office level are going to be added to the factory cost, it becomes the total cost of production. And once the total cost of production is known, you are going to add all selling and distribution expenses which are incurred for distribution of the goods, for making the goods to provide to the ultimate consumer, then it becomes the cost of sales. Though ultimately cost of sales is the thing which is known to you, then you have to add a certain percentage of your profit, certain amount of profit, and then it becomes the selling price. This way the cost sheet is going to be prepared. So now we are going to discuss this detail by requesting the sir to please explain the pro forma that is going to be used while preparing the cost sheet.
Pro forma of cost sheet, first all direct costs are taken, direct material, direct labor, direct expenses, and the summation of these three direct costs we call it as prime cost. Prime cost is the basic cost of any product which occurs. Then to prime cost we add factory overhead, it comes to factory cost. Many times you must have seen factory rate per sale, sale at factory rate. So meaning thereby they want to say that we are adding only factory cost, we are not adding selling and distribution overheads. What is this? Is their marketing proposal. When the product is ready in the factory premises, that we call factory cost, now we add office and administrative overheads, because ultimately these overheads, these expenses have to be borne by the customer only. So we add to the factory cost, then it comes out total cost of production. To total cost of production we add selling and distribution overhead, we will get total cost, or we can call it as cost of sales. Now this is my final cost when the product reaches to the customer's hand. Now the question is how much profit I want to make. Sometime in competitive scenario I will add only very less marginal profit, or if the market allows I am enjoying monopoly, then I will add my own profit. If I add profit to this cost, I will get the selling price. So this is the typical pro forma which we can see on the screen. This is a very important pro forma for the cost sheet.
Learners, cost sheet is known to you. We have explained you the format and what are the various type of costs that are going to be incurred from the place of production to the goods reaches to the ultimate consumer. Now the question arises that there are different types of stock available in a business. Some of them are known as to be the raw material, some of them are known as to be the semi-finished goods or the work in progress, and some of them are known as to be the finished products which are ultimately available for the sale to the consumers. So how these three different type of stocks are going to be treated or are taken into consideration at the time of preparing the cost sheet. Now this is a very important aspect which you are going to take care of. Now sir is going to explain you about all these three different type of aspects related to the material. As I have told you, sir, please explain our learners how we are going to treat the stock of raw material, stock of work in progress and the finished product at the time of preparing the cost sheet.
First of all, the cost sheet which we have seen, that is a simplistic view of cost sheet. In real life there will be some complexities, like in the beginning of the year or at the end of the year we have some opening and closing stock. In that case we have to make adjustments in the cost sheet. As we know that there are three types of opening and closing stock. It may be stock of raw material, the material which we use to produce goods. There may be stock of work in progress, the raw material on which some process has been done, yet it is not in the finished shape, we call it as work in progress. And then we have finished goods. Sometimes what happens, all these three type of opening and closing stocks are available. So how we will make adjustment, that is very important. As far as opening and closing stock of raw material is concerned, opening and closing stock of raw material is adjusted with the direct material. Direct material is in the prime cost stage. So what we do, whatever material we purchase during the year, opening stock is added to it and closing stock is deducted. So we will get the cost of material consumed during the year, and this is shown in the prime cost stage.
Okay. So once we take the opening stock with us, we add purchases, and if we deduct the closing stock of raw material, the final outcome will be the
material consumed.
And this material is going to be taken at the time of calculating the prime cost. Fine.
As far as work in progress stock is concerned, work in progress stock is adjusted at the time of factory cost. Opening stock of work in progress is added to gross factory cost and closing stock is deducted. So we get factory cost at net. Then we have finished goods. Sometimes finished goods are there at opening stock as well as in closing stock. So this adjustment is done after cost of production. When we have calculate all the cost of production, we add opening stock of goods and deduct closing stock of goods. Now we get the adjusted closing stock of goods. This we get the total cost of production of the goods sold.
Now, once this total cost of goods sold is going to be known,
Yeah.
I think only the last step, that is simply to add the profit, is left aside,
Yeah.
so that the selling price could be determined. Learners, now you have came to know the treatment of the opening and closing stock, and we have taken into consideration all three different type of things. We have taken the opening and closing stock of the raw material. We have taken into consideration of the semi-finished goods. Side by side, we have taken into the finished goods. Now, once this thing is known, I will request sir to please explain the various type of overheads which are going to be taken into consideration at the time of calculating the factory cost, or factory related expenses are there. Similarly, sir, there are certain expenses which are related to the office selling and distribution, and there may be certain expenses which are related to the sales of the goods, and they are going to come under the category of the overheads. So what are those components which are considered as to be the overheads in these three cases?
We have taken the basic cost as prime cost, which includes material, labor and expenses which are directly related to particular product. As far as production overheads are concerned, there are some material which is used, for example, some grease, machine oil, etc. are used. Some dusting cloth is there. So these are material which are used in factory premises, but these cost doesn't become part of finished product. So we call them as indirect material which happens in factory premises. Then again, these costs may be in two forms, that is fixed and variable. There are some expenses which varies with production, and there are some expenses which remains fixed, constant.
We are supposed to pay them either some production is going to be done or not. They are under the fixed category, and once those expenses vary with the stage of production, we call them as to be the variable expenses.
As far as office and administrative overheads are concerned, there are basically expenses which occurs beyond factory premises. There are some administrative blocks where management people takes meetings, decisions are taken, and the key management people have their own expenditure, they have their own staff. So all expenses which occurs in this administrative block, we take them as office and administrative overheads. Then these are added to factory costs, we calculate production cost. Now after adding factory overheads, we get factory cost. Now to factory cost, we add office and administrative overheads. What are these? We know that the management people, the management group, they takes their meetings, they sit in administrative block. So all expenses such as printing, internet, all type of office expenses, office lighting, all type of expenses take place, office rent, all these expenses are taken as office and administrative overhead. When we add office and administrative overheads to factory cost, we get final cost of production. After getting cost of production, we add selling and distribution overhead. Now what are selling and distribution overheads? All overheads which take place to take goods from factory premises to the customer. So during this process, we have to hire salesperson, we have to do some advertising efforts, sales campaign, etc. So all these costs are taken as selling and distribution overheads. Now we add selling and distribution overhead to cost of production, we will get final cost, that is total cost or cost of sales.
Okay. So this is again of two type, variable or fixed?
Yeah.
Okay. Now learners, you have came to know that how exactly the cost of sales is going to be calculated and what are the various overheads we are going to take into consideration at the time of calculating this thing. Now the time comes to add the profits. So we'll request sir to please explain that as and when where we are going to add the profit and what is the final outcome by adding the profit to it.
This is the main objective of cost sheet, how to determine the selling price. When we have calculated total cost or cost of sales, now the management has to take decision how much profit management wants to earn. And again this profit can be expressed in two terms: profit as a percentage of total cost or profit as a percentage of selling price. For example, if total cost is 80 rupees, let us say, and management has the policy to charge 25% profit on cost, so 25% of 80, that is 20 rupees. So total cost is 80, profit is 20, we get the selling price as 100. But suppose management has the policy to charge 20% profit on sales, so we do not have selling price, we have only cost price. So in that case we have to calculate by unitary method. If suppose selling price is 100, then profit is 20, and this way we will calculate the profit.
Okay.
And that profit is added to total cost and we get the profit.
You mean to say that there are two different methods for calculating the profit. It depends upon the policy of the management whether they would like to have the profit on the cost of goods, that is the value of the goods to be sold, or on the value of the sales. Suppose learners, the cost of goods sold is given to you and they directly ask to calculate certain percentage of profit on cost of goods sold. Suppose it is 10%, then take 10 upon 100 into the cost and you will be able to calculate it. Another case, suppose the cost is given and you are going to calculate the profit percentage on sales which is not known to you. Then in that case you are going, suppose the percentage is 20, then you are going to take 20 upon 80, that is 20 will be deducted from 100 and you are going to multiply by cost of goods sold. That is different method. Suppose selling price is given to you and you are going to calculate the percentage on cost, then in that case you are going to add the percentage into the denominator, and suppose it is 20% on sales, then 20 upon 120 into selling price, and that you will get it by calculating the profit on cost of goods sold. So these are the different methods which can be used by you while calculating the profits. Now sir is exactly going to show you with the help of a slide that how these things are to be taken into consideration.
Selling price is equal to cost of sales plus desired profit. Already discussed that there are two methods. Desired profit as a percentage of total cost is simple, and desired profit as a percentage of selling price is not known. So sir has already explained that say it is 10%, then we will take 10 upon 90.
So learners, I hope that the discussion which we have done today on the cost sheet is going to help you in solving your practical problems and questions through your self-learning material on a cost sheet. We have taken into consideration the meaning of the cost sheet, its importance to the business, what are the various components at different stages, how we are going to calculate the prime cost, how we are going to calculate the cost of goods sold, each and everything, and where how the profit is also going to be taken into consideration. I hope all these things are going to be very, very useful to you in solving your problems. Thank you very much sir for being here with us and providing such a useful and difficult information in a very lucid manner to our learners.
My
Thank you,
pleasure,
sir.
my pleasure.
Thank you learners.
प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो, धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े, वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े, वे विषय की लोच से
और जागे,
मंजिल आने की ध्वनि सुने। हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने। परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर दुनिया में इसके केंद्र बहुत।
कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने, हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। कोई मन
हिंदुस्तान के हर कोने में नौजवानों के पास प्रतिभा है, उन्हें अवसर चाहिए।
NIOS देता रहा है युवाओं को अवसर आगे बढ़ने का। NIOS से पढ़ने वाले इन युवाओं ने किया है संस्थान को गौरवान्वित। दिव्यांगों ने बन के दिखाया है सबल और आत्मनिर्भर। NIOS के साथ आप भी जुड़िए NIOS के संग।